Hi, Jennifer. Lovely to connect with you. Thank you for joining the online podcast. Um, and if you could just introduce yourself, what you do. And yeah, I know we spoke briefly about it, but yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh, no, that's lovely. Thanks very much, Anastasia. It's great to be here. And of course, with your audience, yes, I'm Jennifer Cairns. For those of you that do not know me, I am the founder of Rebel World and the Lady Rebel Club movement. And pretty much everything that we do here in our Rebel World, as we say, is all about empowering, advocating for, connecting, and elevating women and other marginalized gender entrepreneurs, small business owners, creatives who are neurodiverse or who have any kind of disability. Kind of the best way that I like to kind of describe everything that we do here is that we're like the dirt, right? It doesn't sound maybe overly fantastic and beautiful, but we're like the dirt that really wants to help, all other business owners, all the other movements, all the other charities, organizations, whatever it might be, in kind of our space grow and flourish.
That sounds amazing. And what made you want to start all of this? What gave you that drive?
Well, a lot of it obviously came, as with most of us, from my own experiences and also things that I had seen. And myself, pretty much my whole life. And I think with a lot of, women who are neurodivergent who are late diagnosed as I was, struggled probably with a lot of mental health and a lot of, feeling didn't know where we belonged, all of these different kinds of things as I grew up. I also had a lot of anxiety disorders and things ever since I can remember, being like 6 or 7 years old. So pretty much my whole life as well. And so all that was kind of going on in the background. And then as I was an entrepreneur and, my husband and I ran a consultancy and stuff together, and it was great for a while because everything was, we kind of were in our own little bubble. We worked a lot off referrals. We didn't do really any marketing, but we couldn't really grow things. And slowly and surely my health, physical health as well, started to sort of deteriorate. But I was always very conscious of never letting our clients know that I had anxiety disorders. I didn't want our clients to know that even when I found out I was neurodivergent, I didn't tell anybody, including my mom, for a year and a half. Because I was like, what are people going to say? What are they going to think of me? Are they going to look at me differently? And then as I sort of acquired, for lack of a better word, additional disabilities like fibromyalgia and autoimmune disorders, and things like that, it started to really take its toll. So my husband and I decided, well, hey, let's, put stuff online and run a program and do all this. So we kind of spent a year trying to get that together. And 2 months before it was supposed to launch, my husband had a stroke out of the blue.
Oh
And then
no.
2 months after that, I got a blood cancer diagnosis. And then 2 months after that, COVID hit. So everything, family life, my kids' mental health, even, especially my youngest, my husband, who was in hospital for, just over a month, and then for almost a year, 6 months straight anyway. He was down at the brain injury clinic nearly every day. And of course, the business was, in shatters. So as I was trying to think, how do I rebuild things? Where the heck do I go from here with everything? It was really funny because it was like because obviously that was a hugely chaotic time. And the more chaotic and sort of wild my life was at that stage, the crystal clear my vision became of why am I hiding all of this? Because I have always had this bit of like a rebel kind of attitude, but excuse me, it's always kind of come out more in defending others and standing up for others and helping others. And I never really had it quite so much for myself. But I could almost kind of feel at that stage, and it wasn't like a finger snap and, oh, here I am, this rebel who's, standing out and talking out and doing all of these things. It was a process, over several months or a year, but slowly I was kind of going, this isn't just me, and I could see in all of these LinkedIn groups and all of these Facebook groups where a lot of women entrepreneurs would gather, it was the same thing. Some of them would, sometimes mention something about, not being well or having, this autoimmune disorder, or, being a virgin, or maybe having some kind of anxiety or something like that, of that nature. But it was all very hush hush. And it was, like I said, it was just crystal clear to me that so many of us were hiding and felt like we had to hide. We all felt that same amount of shame, excuse me, that I
Yes.
carried around with me, for so long. And it was really then that I came up with the name Lady Rebel Club. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know what the movement was exactly going to be around, or how that was going to come out. And that's really only been sort of transpiring this year, where through that process of talking to people, sort of like myself, who are neurodiverse or have disabilities, things that they see kind of some their experiences that are going wrong, what support, what help would they need, and a lot of it's come just to know that they're not alone, letting people know that there are a lot of us. In fact, the majority of women and marginalized gender entrepreneurs are neurodivergent or have a disability, that,
We
so the
all have,
percentages.
yeah, we
Yes.
all have something. No one's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, so it's removing that aspect of perfectness, but also being able to say with what feels comfortable for you and your life and your business. And again, this was from my experience and what I could see others going through. When you hide, it's hard for you to really put yourself out there in your business, and run your business and do the things that you need to do. But also internally inside the business, it's hard for you to fill those weaknesses. And we all have strengths and weaknesses. But when we're trying to hide aspects of ourselves because we're afraid of what other people, will think or say, we can't fill those gaps because we're not acknowledging them. And for me, once I really kind of honed in and say, look, these are things that I'm really great at. And here's things I'm a bit crap at, right? Here's things that I need to focus on. And I did that. And it completely changed, the way that I work within my business. And now I'm far happier with how I work within the business. I don't have the stress and the pressure. And don't get me wrong, it's not, a bed of roses and everything's perfect. I still have times where I look and, because of my ADHD, there's 50 stacks of papers and Post-its on my desk that have piled up again that I need to go through. But I'm aware of how I'm going to react better to certain things. I'm aware, of how I can get the best out of myself in certain situations and how I work within the business. But also because I've removed that cap, so to say, publicly when I'm speaking and we're out and we're talking, it has allowed me to connect far more authentically. The imposter syndrome isn't really there as much as it used to be, rears its head once in a while. But I'm like, this is who I am. So either you connect with me and you believe that I have the talent and the skills and all the things to do that I say that I can do. And, here's the experience that I have to show that. Or if you don't think that I'm good enough to work with because I have a disability or a neurodiversity, guess what? I don't need to work with you either, and I think it's being able to have that confidence, if we have the privilege, so I've had the privilege to be able to be able to do that, and use my voice. And this is why I feel really driven to be able to use my voice to stand up and to talk, not talk for, but just to make people aware, of what's going on and a lot of the unconscious biases and the archaic attitudes, but also those paradigms inside ourselves and how we talk to ourselves, that we need to shift and better self-empower ourselves to be, more ourselves in our business and be happier, because otherwise what's the point? Why be miserable? And I know a lot of us are.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
And obviously you feel that this has made you stronger as a person as well.
Oh, definitely. Well, it's funny because definitely one of my kind of super qualities is grit. And even from, a young age, I've always had a huge amount of grit and determination. So it's definitely, and I definitely kind of say on my, my neurodivergent side, that's one of the great qualities I think that I've gotten from it, is that, that backbone of steel where I can withstand so much. And I probably have, like I said, a lot of grit and determination, would definitely be one of my strongest things. So, and it has helped. And again, being able to have conversations like this, and be more myself. And it doesn't mean I put everything on social media. That's not what I'm saying. This isn't about that, but it's allowing myself to be more myself within my business as the business owner. So, it just removes a lot of the stress and pressure. You're still going to come up against biases. I've felt discrimination, in my opinion, against, with funding bodies and things here that, once I was very open and transparent with them and said, hey, yes, I'm neurodivergent. Yes, I have disabilities. The conversation with them completely changed. So it doesn't also mean that, going, yes, here I am, look at me, my, my wonderful disabilities and all, that everyone's going to welcome that with open arms. So I think you also have to be prepared that there are still going to be people out there who have biases, who are, are going to have, different opinions about your capabilities, and all of these things. And hopefully if more and more of us are kind of holding up our hands going, but
And
hey, guess what?
And
you
people
know.
are very quick to judge as well, aren't
Yes,
they?
they're very quick. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you describe your title as a coach, as an empowering coach? How would you describe yourself?
It's a good question. Um,
Yes.
I think with myself, if I had to, use a title, because I don't really do coaching, I would say maybe I do maybe some mentoring, things of that. I speak, so I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I've been a 6-time international bestselling author with different series I've been in. Our book that we just put out, Rebel with a Cause, is I do have to say it's fabulous, not just because, we organized it and everything, but the authors in it are just amazing. So I think myself, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, maybe a mentor, a change maker, definitely a rebel in lots of different ways.
Um, and what are your ways to help people? So do you do breathing exercises, different activities? Do you know what I mean? Like what sort of stuff do
Yes.
you do to help people?
Well, it's ironic because again, I really believe in one of our strong drives is around collaboration, and partnership. And that's one of our core drivers of everything that we do. And internally, for instance, so say with Lady Rebel Club as a whole, hopefully it's a movement that we're growing globally. We've got people from all different countries, already involved in it, and it's been fantastic. And it's growing every day. And we see having chapters in different places. So that's one of the things that we're doing, is trying to connect, all of us. We do have a saying though, if you're one of us, you're one of us. You don't have to join anything, or take part in anything, just to know that you belong and there's other people out there like you who are here to support you, you can connect and collaborate with if you choose to. We have an app that's launching soon that people can use more specifically for connecting and collaborating and things of that nature. That's all again free for everybody. And then we have, the platforms that we will be using to elevate our community's voices via the magazine, which is Roar, the Rebel Hour podcast, our Indomitable show that'll be coming up. We actually have an event planned, next October, that's going to be a really great entrepreneurial festival that we're calling it. That's actually going to have a fashion show now we've added. We're working with somebody to bring disability fashion to it. We're going to have lots of great things with it, business and speakers and arts and other stuff as well. So again, it's just all about doing that. So me, myself, and I always preface this, and if anybody has seen any of my Facebook lives or anything, I always say, look, I speak from my experience, dealing with anxiety and dealing with different things and how I had to learn really myself. I went from being on Ativan as a very young adult, which was a crazy medication, at the time that they gave people, to really being able to manage my anxiety disorders. And I do have GAD and CPTSD myself. But it didn't happen again overnight. So although I talk a lot from my experience, and I'm happy to share my experiences with people and things that work for me, like journaling or breathing and, just doing different things like that, there's so many people in our community, even like yourself, who are experienced in those areas. So that's again what I think is great about our community, because I'm able to then say, well, hey, go and speak, with Anastasia, or go and speak with, this person, or go and speak with that person, because they're a great nutritionist, or they're great at doing Facebook and they specialize in live video, or they specialize, in breathing techniques or mental health, or, whatever it might be. And because we have such a diverse community and we have that collaborative spirit, it's not trying to hog everything for ourselves and say, well, what can we create to serve, all of these things? Instead, again, we're like the dirt that just wants to lift everybody up and connect. And we want to then be able to say, well, look, I might not be able, to give you the best techniques or the best, advice to do X, Y, and Z. I can give you my experience and let you know what I do, but why don't you speak, to these other people in our community? So it's having that community spirit and that community drive. And I think that a lot of us are developing that, because we're, there's a good, especially core foundation of us that are becoming, really close and getting to know each other and their businesses and what they're capable of, and, their skills and their talents and all of that. So I think for us, it's having that more community approach rather than let's solve all of the problems for everybody approach.
That's definitely an effective way. And it's very different to what other people are doing. So
Yes. Yeah.
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 And how would you, I mean, do you think that, because even I like suffer from anxiety sometimes.
Mm.
And do you think that taking the pill for anxiety helps, or do you think it's the natural methods?
I think again, that's maybe, an individual thing you have to look at. For me personally, I didn't like, now I know Ativan was a very strong, drug at the time. And it, I just found it was like, I was like a zombie, literally like a zombie walking around, and I didn't like that feeling. So for me, it just wasn't something, it wasn't fixing, or it wasn't addressing. I didn't feel the cause. It was more like just trying to plaster, over it. Um, and I thought for me, I had to really try and figure out a way of to do some of the things that I wanted to do. So say for instance, even, and I know it sounds like a small thing to a lot of people, but like doing Facebook lives and things like that. I mean, it was visceral, the effects I had when I was trying to do that at first, just because of so much anxiety and all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And it took me a year. It took me a year to really get comfortable with doing it. But I was determined, I was determined that I wanted to have live video as part of our strategy and be able to do other things like speaking and things like that. And I said, this is where I need to start, in order to get over these things. But my anxiety at one stage when when I was over here, it was so bad that I could barely leave the house. I was really at that stage where there was like 3 places that I would go, and my husband had to go with me. And I was like, right, this is ridiculous. Excuse me. I said, I need to develop some other techniques of how to manage this other than, sorry, I'm losing my voice, other than go home, and sit in the house and not go anywhere. So I did then go and seek out, a therapist, and went through some of that to learn some additional techniques and CBT and things of that nature that, that could help. And it was, ironically, it was through that process is when it was like, by the way, do you realize that, you're autistic, and these kinds of things. So it was actually through that journey that I was able to learn a lot more about myself as well. So I think it's, for me, it was a combination of not personally, not, going down the medication route, finding some, a therapist and somebody that could help me, but also give me, teach me how to fish rather than giving me the fish, so to say, so that then I had additional techniques that, we could work on. Because and I know a lot of us have a ZAC. And I would assume maybe some of your listeners know what a ZAC is, our zombie apocalypse kit, and maybe some don't. But yes, so my ZAC at that stage was massive. It basically took up the whole boot of the car and, a bag, about like 3x3 that I would carry around with the kitchen sink in it. And we were able to kind of whittle that down, to like something very small, more like a cosmetic case, that I carry with me. Yes, I do maybe have an extra blanket and a couple of bottles of water in the car, but other than that, I'm not allowed to carry anything else. And I was able again to work through that. And it took me a while, to kind of get through that and it took me a while to be able to go out to some different places. I still will have anxiety at times. A lot of that stems because of my, neurodiversity as well. So there will probably always be, some aspects there, but because I've learned additional skills and things, some breathing work, some journaling work, I do a lot of like, visualizing the situation, and things even to kind of help seed before I maybe enter a situation that I know might be really stressful or, trigger some of my anxiety. And I
yes,
also just try not to let it stop me. I kind of just say to myself, for instance, with doing speaking engagements and things like this, like I'm fine virtually. And I know doing the in-person stuff is another case, right? That's a whole different ball of wax. But I also know it's things that I want to do. So I just kind of own the anxiety and say to myself, right, I'm going to really not want to do this when it's 5 minutes before me having to go and do it, but we'll enjoy it. We'll get through it. We'll enjoy it. And it'll be a great experience to have. So I think sometimes we have to know when to push ourselves and when not to push ourselves, as well.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I feel like the GP doesn't do much. He just offers the medication and that's it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
There's not much help out there. So
There's none really. There really
yeah,
isn't.
I know.
No.
um, and yeah, so is there anything else that you want to share?
Well, I would just say, specifically regarding mental health, I know there again, and we would have a lot of people in our community who continue to struggle sometimes with mental health, like I do, and a lot of us do. that we're just, again, to know that you're not alone. You know, it's not something that you should be ashamed of. It's not, you know, it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad business person. It doesn't make you a bad mom, wife, you know, partner, whatever it might be. And that it's just something that a lot of us struggle with this, and it's to no fault of our own, you know. It's not something that we should be ashamed of. But I would stress as well, don't try not to hide it in silence, you know, whether it's your partner, whether it is your GP, whether you know, you can reach out to a therapist, whether you can reach out, I don't know, to, you know, maybe a coach even, you know, or somebody who works in the mental health space in one shape or form or the other, to reach out, a friend even, you know, for a coffee, whatever it might be, even if it's just maybe a journal, but find some outlet, because the more that you bottle things up, again, this is from my personal experience, the more that you bottle things up and you try to hide it, it's absolutely devastating, and it can have real physical, real tangible sort of effects on you. So yeah, just try not to put yourself in that situation, and just know, whatever kind of shame or however much you think people aren't going to understand what you're thinking and what you're going through, you know, there will be people out there that will. You just, you know, you need to try and reach out to them if you can.
Yes,
Not
I
do on your
agree.
own.
Yeah. Because not many people like to share their story, like you said, you know. So yeah, well, thank you very much.
Yes, well, lovely to be here.
When I post this video, I can add your website and any
Okay.
links. Yeah, that
Great.
sounds great.
That's
Thank
lovely.
you. I'll just close the call. I mean, stop the recording.
Yes. Okay.